So what is it that you want to start with?
Start. You came up here saying you can explain. You've got the floor.
Okay, so the context of the messages that everyone's putting around at the moment, where I've apparently consented to sexual acts with child alters and children, the missing information, I will read it to you.
I'm not talking about that, pause. I'm talking about the conversations where you are sexting.
Which ones?
The ones where you and Brian are discussing fucking while you are breastfeeding your children.
Yeah, so when we have had those conversations, the conversation pertained to a adult breastfeeding fetish. Adult breastfeeding fetish.
Adults breastfeeding on you.
Yes, it's called a nursing fetish.
But then why was 2-year-olds mentioned?
2-year-olds weren't mentioned in that conversation. The conversation was mentioned with a baby that was there, like, whilst those things were happening. 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 8-year-olds were mentioned in a separate conversation, which I can explain to you right now. I'm like perfectly honest to be completely transparent with you, but it's like, first of all, none of this is humorous. So if you want to take it seriously, I can read to you exactly how this has progressed.
Because of the bullshit that you're talking about. But anyway, keep going, because I'm going to bring up exactly what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
Our 2-year-old and 4-year-old feeding while I'm eating you out and blah blah blah, and you say the fact that you have the same desire for closeness and bonding and family. Explain that.
So my position when I discussed this with Brian, and when I say I don't care that you don't believe in DID, but when I say I use the word loosely, the connection that I developed with Brian through my trauma bond was the first beginning conversations that we had was involving pertaining to family connection, right? Which is why we started the connection, first of all, to begin with, based on adult nursing fetish, right? And so then it started off like that, and then Brian introduced children, and then Brian introduced a 4-year-old, and then Brian introduced an 8-year-old, and then Brian introduced an 11-year-old. There are multiple times in the screenshots that he hasn't shown where I've said to him, hey, it's really interesting.
I'm going to stop you right there. That's not my question. You're not answering my question.
I just told you.
No.
So for me,
you're not answering the question, love. He said, when he made that remark, you said, I'm so happy to find someone that shares the same lovely family devotion.
Yes, because for me, what I was talking about was that I was talking about family connection, because prior to those conversations, we were talking about the fact that neither of us was raised in a family where we had both experienced seeing our parents display signs of affection to each other. I was talking about the connection of family experience. That was what the specific mention was in those messages. Like I said, I'm happy to answer any single question, but like, if you think that I'm deflecting it,
I want you to just watch me sometimes and aid yourself in pleasure. Just sit down with me and watch my pulsating and dripping while I breastfeed our children, rocking back and forth. Is that related to why you both didn't have a good relationship with your family?
No, what's your question to do with that? Because that's a conversation that comes after things that he hasn't shown you. So what's the particular question?
No, stop bringing up Brian. I'm asking you, Cristina. Why did
I can't bring up Brian because this is pertaining to a conversation.
The conversation is about you now. Why did you say? Let me bring that thing up again.
It's interesting to me that
no. Listen carefully to the question. Why did you say that you implying that you'll be turned on while I breastfeed our children, rocking back and forth, and you just watch me stroke your? Why did you say that?
Because have you in the messages that he's not showing, he has, which you haven't seen, no one's seen except for.
Cristina, answer the question. Why did you say that?
I regurgitated back to him the voice messages that I had received.
What?
So he had sent a series of 4 voice messages where he had spoken about this particular thing. I regurgitated the voice messages back to him in text.
You are using the words I. Okay, let's find more.
That's what, no, when I said no, so I said full disclosure, when I'm talking the word I'm saying the word I because I can't give you the exact name, I can't give you the exact alter, and I don't feel comfortable doing that with you anyway because I do know that you don't believe me. Okay, here we go. I would have hidden it in ordinary circumstances.
Oh, here we go. This is the one. Yeah, this is Brian.
I would have hidden it in ordinary circumstances.
I don't think so either. Like, I fell even more in love with you when you told me that when you breastfeed your children that you would be turned on.
Yeah, so breastfeeding fetishes are not a involvement of children. Have you looked up breastfeeding fetishes? A breastfeeding fetish is not involving a child. That is quite literally something.
Breastfeeding your children.
Yes, but it doesn't involve the sexualization of a child.
So
it's not the act of the child that was the thing that made the experience sexualized. For me, which Brian knows very well, it was the experience of 2 parents who loved each other, and there was a child who was nourishing from being breastfed that would then create a connection between the father and the mother. There was no mention.
Create the connection, so you would get turned on while breastfeeding, and then he would fuck you while you breastfeed.
Okay, first of all, have you ever looked up the statistics of women?
I don't need You got mommy so horny. Daddy's here to take care of mommy now. Just tease me with your looking at me in my eyes while I'm feeding our babies, and so now it's babies.
Yeah, it is. It was always babies. It was never going to be anything else. It was always a baby. So We started the conversation from the beginning about adult breastfeeding fetish, right? That's a whole community that doesn't involve children. We then went on to discuss the fact that when I breastfed children, I would experience a specific type of arousal, which is not from the act of having children around. It is something that is medically known that some women experience because of the connection that they have to a child. It is not a sexual thing. It's not a sexual thing under any circumstances,
So
right?
if it's not sexual, then why do you guys want to fuck after you breastfeed?
Would you like the real answer to that? Or would you like to tell me that I'm lying?
Tell me.
Okay, so I have a history of trauma, and I know that you can empathize to this because of your history with trauma in this particular
Don't weaponize my shit.
Not weaponize it. I'm not like, if you want to listen to me, cut the shit with, like, you know, everything I say that you shut down. If you want to listen to me, listen to me. If you don't, then watch the videos and try and dismantle the videos in the way that you want. Because I'm doing this, like, I'm coming here to talk to you because I'm trying to explain to you the ways that this has been completely misconstrued. What are you showing?
Imagine feeding our children, getting to a point where I get so flustered that I sit down because my hips started rocking and I made little audible gasp. Then I'd heard you come home and you'd find me there absolutely vulnerable, just looking at you and saying, I need daddy to touch me, please, baby. The second I saw, okay, you'd kiss the babies nursing on me on the forehead, and the sight of you showing love to our children would send me over the edge.
Okay, there you go. Pause for a second. Very concerning that you're only using Brian's messages.
No, because
I'm sorry that those weird TikTok
No,
people
because
experience their vulnerabilities the way that they do.
The problem is, Cristina, you've taken no accountability. So stop.
What do you think I'm doing right now?
This is not talking about accountability. This is making excuses. So this is the point I'm trying to make right now. You knew he's a sick fuck. You knew all of this. Here you are telling him. Also, I'm sorry that those weird TikTok people exposed your kinks and vulnerabilities the way they did. I don't think you effed up. I mean, we all are.
Yeah, so I wasn't talking about anything to do with children at that point. That was when I was talking to him in, like, August or September. Like, that was not when we were having any particular conversations to do with children. This is when we were talking about things that, like, he had that were kink-based conversations that had nothing to do with that. Like the breeding fetish, for example. Like, I don't think a breeding fetish is something that is morally wrong. So I said that to him,
But
that I'm
that's
sorry.
not what the conversations were about, bro.
Yeah, because he's not shown you the timestamps.
This is what you're not understanding. We know his kinks. We know the sick stuff he's been exposed to. What we didn't know is that you share those same interests.
No, I don't. I'm telling you why, and you won't listen to why I engaged in this. I'm telling you why I was in hospital for a month, processing the fact that I entered into this type of relationship, and I was in a relationship where somebody was doing these things, and I was involving myself, reciprocating in these things. But you won't listen to me because you think it's me using my trauma to escape accountability. But I'm not using my trauma to escape accountability. I've taken my accountability. The baby's being fed has gotten me wet all day. Yep. For me, that was the absence of me having a family. See, you don't want to understand because you don't understand.
Okay. So you started officially dating in December for about a month. Does a trauma bond happen that quickly?
Yes. No, well, actually, we started becoming friends in August. The trauma bond started developing in August. We started dating on December the 2nd or 3rd, but we started talking in more than friendship ways and more than a platonic way since August. We had a few months to develop a trauma bond, and the trauma bond was solidified when he cheated on me with Sam.
It was not the tone, but here's a lesson, Cristina. When you take accountability, you don't say but. You don't.
I'm not saying but. I'm saying here's the reason. I'm saying, yes, I know that is harassment, but I'm telling you that this is the reason why I did it, so that you can understand that I didn't have.
When you take accountability, you don't give a reason. You own up to your fuck up.
Yes, I am owning up to my fuck up. I harassed you when you were in a state of panic and you were overwhelmed and overstimulated and in a trauma spiral. And the reason I did that was because I was afraid of losing your friendship.
My stance is you and Brian should not be allowed near children. Ever.
Okay, that's your opinion, and if you are completely entitled to that opinion, but and Tammy's entitled to that opinion, anyone is entitled to that opinion at all, and I will not try and change it under any circumstances at all. What I will tell you
is sickening. The women that is in that Discord sharing that stories, I would be very careful because this is a vindictive woman. Be very careful. Because if you do anything to upset her, trigger her, she will turn on you. And there's a lot of people in this live that will attest to that. So, Cristina, did those messages in those texts, did Brian make those messages? Or is that you?
I just showed you that I was regurgitating his voice messages. I also showed you how it began. I also showed you how it ended. I can also show you.
I listened to your voice memo.
Because I haven't showed you all of them. I haven't showed you all of them because I can't. I can't show you all of them because they're being investigated.
You need to be investigated. That you weren't referring to children. I just wrote 3 screenshots for you, including children.
Yeah, babies.
Does that make it better?